WMMA Now. I'm your host, Chuck Stevenson, as always. This is going to be part 2 in a multi-part special series titled A Case for Atomweights in the UFC. Part 1, I listed my reasons for why I believed the atomweight division, the ladies' atomweight division, deserves a place in the UFC. Parts 2 and 3, I'm going to focus on different fighters that I feel would really add to the UFC. Part 2, I'm going to focus on some lesser known fighters that you guys probably haven't heard of before, may or may not have heard of before. And Part 3, I'm going to focus on some fighters, most of whom are going to be in the top 10 of the atomweight division, and fighters who have definitely made a name for themselves, especially over the past year. So let's start with our first of the 10 of the less known fighters. This is going to be Shino VanHoose. Shino is 22 years old. She has a record of 6-5. This girl's first fight was at age 16 over in Japan. She is a submission specialist with 4 of 6 wins coming by way of submission. Her last fight was a split decision over Elise Anderson at Invicta FC 25. If you haven't seen that fight, I recommend it. It was very good, a very close fight. It could have gone either way. It went Shino's way. Shino's one of those cases where she started out a little too early, too young, and got thrown up against the wolves in Japan. It's going to be a running theme with some of the fighters in this video. But I think she's training, living and training in the U.S. now, and I think she's about to get everything sorted out as far as training and fighting goes. Moving on, I'm going to talk about Lisbeth Lopes Silva. She's 5-3. Now this young woman started off with a record of 0-3. She lost her first 3 fights, but since then she's gone on to win her next 5 fights, so she's on a 5-fight winning streak. 3 of those 5 wins have come by finish, so 3 out of 5 did not go to the judges. Her last fight was a second round TKO versus Sheila Padilla at Combate Americas 18. Her fight before that, she fought the much more experienced Nickdali Rivera Kalana. So she is, of course, someone to watch out for and keep an eye on. Next up, going to go across the pond to Europe. Katherine the Alpha Wolf Costigan. Now, she's not as young as the other fighters. She's at ripe 38. She has a record of 6-2. Now, 4 of those 6 wins have come by submission, so she is a ground and submission specialist. Her last fight, however, came with a split decision win over Wendy McKenna at Cage Warriors 81, and that was after, I think, a break of 1 or 2 years, so she had to get some ring rust off after that. Katherine Costigan, definitely someone who brings a wealth of experience to the cage, definitely deserves a shot at the big time. Next time we're going to move up to Jujith Nagawa. She's a Filipino with a boxing background. She's 30 years old. She's a perfect 3-0. 2 of those wins have come by KO or TKO. She started off fighting in 1 championship. Her last fight was a unanimous decision win over Yuko Kiryu at World Series of Fighting Global Championship 3. World Series of Fighting GC didn't turn out more than a few shows. So obviously it's been a while since Jujith fought. Hopefully, if Atomweights had some more opportunities, we can coax her back in from boxing and into mixed martial arts. Next up, we're going to go to Grace Cleveland, aka the Thai Kitten. She's a bit younger than the last 2. She's only 24. She is a perfect 3-0. 2 of those 3 wins have come by submission. Her last fight was a first round submission win over Kelly Villarino at King of the Cage Territorial Dispute. Now, Grace Cleveland apparently suffered a neck injury last year, but from what I've seen, the recovery seems to be going well. And as you can see in the picture, she's got Dana White's attention already. So, wishing Grace Cleveland a healthy recovery. Hope she comes back better than ever, gets back into the cage, and hopefully she can get a shot at one of the bigger shows. Moving on, for number 6, Sabrina Montero. Svania's back up a little in age, 31 years old. She's 8-2. Now she has an 88% finish rate. Only one of her wins have gone to the decision. Most of those wins have come up with submission, but from what I've seen of this girl, she hits hard. And hey, who doesn't love a Brazilian power puncher, right? Last fight was first round TKO win over Indianara Machado at Aspera FC 50. But like I said, who doesn't love a Brazilian power puncher who is also well versed in submissions, right? Moving on to number 7, the Wushu Princess, Sohee Lee. She's 21 years old, very young. She's only 2-1. And her last fight was unanimous decision over Pan Hui at Road FC 45. Guys, I did a review of that fight. I thought Sohee Lee showed a lot of improvement over her last 2 fights. Her first fight, she got destroyed against a way more experienced opponent. And then she came back with a win over Hana Date, and then Pan Hui had probably about 4 or 5 more fights experience over Sohee Lee, and Sohee Lee just lit her up on the feet and did very well in that fight. I thought she showed a lot of improvement, and I'm very looking forward to her next fight and seeing more of her. Moving on to number 8, Junggeun Park, Little Wolf, although I've heard she wants to change her moniker to Monster Wolf. She's also young, 21 years old. She has a 500 record right now of 3-3-1. She's a kickboxing sambo specialist. Now, Junggeun Park suffers from the Korean scene. It's very hard to find them good matchups. All of her losses have come up against much more experienced Japanese fighters, and her draw came against the, like 4 or 5 times more experienced Hisei Watanabe. And let me tell you something, if you've seen that fight, you'd know that had that fight gone on in the 3rd round, Junggeun Park would have won that fight. Junggeun Park's last fight was a decision loss to Mina Kurobe, aka the Deep Jules champ, Mina Kurobe, at Deep 81st Impact a couple days before Christmas back in December. Junggeun Park, she has this charisma. I don't know how to explain it. She's kind of tomboyish, but still has, that femininity to her. Just very charismatic. It's hard to explain it, but definitely someone to watch out for. Moving on, we're going to go to our 3rd straight Korean fighter. If you can't tell, I'm a big fan of the Korean mixed martial arts scene in general, and I've especially been following the ladies. Moving on, it's going to be Yeji Lee, the high school fighter. Well, technically she just graduated high school a couple weeks ago. She's a spry young, 18 years of age, and right now she also has a 500 record. She's at 3-3. Now, this girl's first fight came at age 16 against Atoko Sanashi, Japanese mixed martial arts, WMMA legend, who was 22-2-2 at the time. So this girl got fed to the wolves right at the beginning. Let's see. She's more of a decision machine. Only one of her 3 wins are by finish, and her last fight was a split decision loss to 7-7 Tomo Maesawa at Road FC 41. Again, much like Junggeun Park, this girl got fed to the wolves. When she fights people closer to her in experience, she does really well. But then Road FC or whatever promotion she chooses to fight for will match her up against someone way higher in experience. And I think it'll help her in the long term, but right now, all it's doing is making her record look bad. So, in the West, the mismatches usually aren't that bad. A debutante, 16-year-old, fighting against someone who's 22-2. So, I think, while I like watching her fight in Road FC, I think if she were able to get a chance to fight in the West, they'd do a much better job of matching her up with someone more equal. Now, moving on to the last fighter of this list is going to be Bwin, aka Kill Her B. B is 28 years old. She currently has a 4-2 record. She trains at Jackson Wink. She trains alongside likes of Holly Holm and the former Invicta FC Atomweight champ Michelle Watterson. B's win was last fight was a split decision win over Cassie Robb at King of the Cage Prevail. She also has a previous, she split 2 fights with former King of the Cage champion Andy Win, in the fights that I like to bill as the win-win situations. Bwin has a pretty good style. She's not super technical, but she shows improvements in every fight, and definitely has a, as you can see, she's a cute girl, very attractive, much like most of the others. And what say you guys? I think she deserves a shot. So guys, let me know what you think about each of these fighters individually in the comments down below. And next segment, we'll be going over some more fighters who are more well known, fighters more experienced, fighters more into the top 10. Let me know what you think about this video. Again, if you like it, hit up the like, share it to your social media pages, and what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMAC now, the fastest growing women's mixed martial arts platform on YouTube.